moments ago, former President Donald Trump wrapped up his meeting with congressional Republicans up on Capitol Hill. It marked his first visit since telling his supporters to, quote, fight like hell just ahead of the deadly January 6th riot. Here's how the current House Speaker, Mike Johnson, characterized this meeting.
President Trump brought an extraordinary amount of energy and excitement and enthusiasm this morning. That is what we're seeing in the party throughout the country. There is something happening in the country. That's the phrase I used to introduce the president this morning, and he repeated the phrase a number of times in his own remarks. People recognize right now in this country that this will be the most consequential election, certainly of our lifetimes, and probably maybe in the last century or more in America. Everything is at stake.
Let's bring in our national correspondent, Kristen Holmes. She's joining us live from Capitol Hill right now. Kristen, what are other Republican lawmakers saying, and what are you hearing from the former president himself behind closed doors?
Yeah, Wolf, I will remind you that this was set up as sort of an introduction to Donald Trump, or a reintroduction. This is the first time he's meeting with these large groups of lawmakers. First it was Hill Republicans. Later today it will be with Senate Republicans behind me. Since he became the presumptive nominee and since he became a convicted felon, the way it was explained to us was that Donald Trump was going to spend the time talking about how he was going to be Joe Biden in the fall, as well as talk about a 2025 agenda. Now, according to our sources in the room, that's not entirely what happened. He did talk about one policy issue in particular. He talked about abortion, something we know that has weighed heavily on the former president. He has tried to walk a fine line between both taking credit for overturning Roe v. Wade while also not wanting to talk about it at all because he doesn't believe it is a political, quote unquote, winner. But other than that, Donald Trump really spent a lot of the time ranting. He talked about different races. He talked about various Republicans who had voted to impeach him, taking credit for the fact that so many of those Republicans are no longer in office. At one point, he even talked about Nancy Pelosi's daughter, saying that her daughter had told him in a different lifetime Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump would have had a great romance. It sounded like a real Donald Trump kind of back and forth ping-ponging type of speech. Johnson obviously saying that that was energetic and excited. I will tell you that we had spoken to a number of lawmakers who said that they were hoping that this would bring some unity to the party, which has obviously been very fractured, particularly in the House around Speaker Johnson, First Speaker McCarthy. It does sound like, at least from what Speaker Johnson said, there is some of that rallying around Donald Trump party unity that happened today at that meeting.
Kristen Holmes up on Capitol Hill. Thank you very much. I want to bring in CNN congressional correspondent Lauren Fox right now. Lauren, how are Republican lawmakers responding to Trump's remarks today?
Well, Wolf, a lot of the Republicans who are in the House, who were in this meeting this morning, they were already huge Donald Trump fans. Just to give you a sense of the fanfare, when Donald Trump walked into the room, House Republicans actually sang him happy birthday because his birthday just right around the corner. Now, it's also clear that there has been some of that tension that Kristen was talking about. The fact that a couple weeks ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to oust the sitting speaker, Mike Johnson. According to Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I spoke to just a few minutes ago, Donald Trump addressed that.
I really found his speech to be one of my favorite speeches. He came in, talked to the conference, was very honest. He was funny. He was joking around constantly with everyone. He was really sweet to me. He said to Speaker Johnson, he goes, okay, you got one more seat. You need to be tougher. He saw me. I was sitting back a little ways. He saw me in there and he was like, hello, Marjorie. He's always so sweet and recognizes me. And he said, are you being nice? He was joking. Are you being nice to Speaker Johnson? And I said, eh. And he said, okay, be nice to him. And I nodded my head. And then
So obviously Marjorie Taylor Greene, Wolf, they're trying to make light of a situation that really embattled Republicans for several weeks just last month. It's also clear, though, that Donald Trump laid out a couple of policy proposals, not in necessarily a serious way, but Marjorie Taylor Greene telling me that at one point Donald Trump seemed to entertain the idea of no income taxes for Americans. That is something she said he was just sort of throwing out there as a potential idea, just really bringing you back to the fact that Donald Trump in these forums likes to have a discussion, likes to feed off the audience, doesn't want this just to be him delivering a message to the conference, despite the fact that I will tell you, a lot of Senate Republicans I've been talking to, that's what they are hoping to get from Donald Trump in just a short time when he speaks to them over at the National Republican Senatorial Committee. Wolf?
I thought it's interesting you say the National Republican Senatorial Committee, that they have a building off of the U.S. Congress. These meetings are not taking place inside the Congress. They're up on Capitol Hill, which is the neighborhood around the U.S. Congress. Explain why it's taking place off campus, shall we say.
Yeah, traditionally, when you want to talk about politics in Washington, D.C., you don't do that inside the Capitol building, sort of a piece of respect and also sort of going with how the rules work up here on Capitol Hill. So they often, and this isn't just when a presidential nominee is coming to speak to them, but if they, as a party, want to talk about polling, if they want to talk about fundraising, that is typically the avenue and the place that they do it, Wolf.
And that's why the political branches of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, for that matter, as well, they have separate buildings off of the Capitol building, indeed, but they're up on Capitol Hill. All right, Lauren, thank you very, very much.